started. So bear with me. This webinar is being recorded. Thank you for joining us for the Community Education Webinar, Grow Your Own CPS Social Media Presence, recorded March 29th, 2022. As a reminder, please do not participate in this webinar if you are operating a motor vehicle, and it will be posted to cpsboard.org/recertification within about 48 hours, and you can watch it when you're in a safe location. So today we are going to chat about some useful tips and tricks that you can use today. We have made this specifically for our CPS community. We want to make sure that you can get on your computer here in just a few minutes and do something with this information. We're going to encourage you to use the Q&A button for the questions. We're going to address those at the end of the presentation. So please take a minute, and if you have a question, put it in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. Ron, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure, Mandy, thank you. Hi, everyone, welcome. I'm Ron Kramer. I'm a web content writer at the National Safety Council. I also serve as the co-chair of the Communications Committee on the National Child Passenger Safety Board. Some of what I do regularly in my work, I write content. I produce 2 road safety e-newsletters each month. I maintain a couple of websites that are WordPress platforms. I manage social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. I live in Shorewood, Illinois, southwest of Chicago. My wife and I are empty nesters. Our 2 boys have their own kids now, and we're excited to be welcoming our 6th grandchild in April. So that's a little bit about me. Mandy, over to you.
Thanks so much, Ron. So my name is Mandy Seetaler, and I'm the Deputy Director for the Center for Safe Alaskans. I'm a child passenger safety technician and instructor, and I'm the statewide CPS coordinator for the Alaska Highway Safety Office. I'm the current chairperson of the National Child Passenger Safety Board and the Public Health Research Representative. And I joke a lot that being part of the board, it's been really convenient to have had a baby recently, because I use him a lot, and he has been key to my social media postings and content creation for the current curriculum. So we both bring our families into CPS, as I'm sure all of you do. We've all used our families as part of our CPS programs. So welcome. Thank you for joining us today, and we are excited to get started. I'm going to pass this over to Ron now.
Okay, thank you, Mandy, and we'll go ahead and watch this short video I created. Okay, so that was just a little short video that I created as a way to grab your attention. And here's some text that you might use with a little video like that on your social channels. And, you know, we don't really need to read it all right now, but, you know, start out with something like Twinkies. This is what a CPS instructor actually used in a teaching at one point. The weight times the force on a child's tummy is like squeezing a Twinkie. The outer cake might stay whole, but the insides will never be the same again if the belt is positioned improperly. So I showed you this video. It was about 26 seconds. It is by no means perfect. And the text that I have on the screen right now, when I timed myself, it took me about 26 seconds to read that. I'm just bringing those up, and we're going to talk a little bit more later about what's an appropriate time length for a video, how much text do you want in your post. So just kind of keep those things in mind, and we'll move ahead with our presentation now. Okay, so The first thing that we should do is kind of ask ourselves this question: where do you begin in social media? And I thought I would just start by kind of talking about some of the basic kinds of things. I imagine many of you are already out there doing some things on social media, and that's great. As Mandy said, what we're hoping to accomplish today is to give you some tips and ideas that you can take with you and use to help bolster what you're already doing. Or if you're not on social media, kind of introduce you to ways that you will connect with people and share your different messages. So ask yourselves, what are you trying to accomplish on social media? Are you trying to reach a specific group, technicians, instructors, parents, caregivers, maybe all of the above, right? So you need to be conscious of what channels would be best to reach those people. You can do some general research before you set up your social media accounts and make some decisions based on what you learn. Is Facebook going to work for me? Is Instagram going to work for me? Twitter, TikTok. But as you get deeper and deeper, into your social media, what does your data tell you about your audience and your channels? And so we're going to talk more about that, how you can look into that data and make informed decisions. And then how are you going to create your content? And we'll talk about some ideas there and share some tips as we get them going here. So this slide probably will look a little bit familiar if you're maybe in a public health setting. It's sort of what might be called a public health model, right? You set a goal, you research your audience, you establish what metrics you're going to monitor and keep track of. You create your account, you post your content. Then after you've posted that content, you assess that content. How did it perform? What can we do to improve, right? And then we take our learnings and we rinse and we repeat, right? So those are some of the things that we'll be going through as we continue on our journey here. So how does the board do it? And so I'll speak on behalf of the National Child Passenger Safety Board now and kind of explain a little bit about what we've done and things that have been successful for us. So it bears noting right off that we started out very small. We started with a Facebook channel only. We're now on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and we're also on YouTube. So how did we grow our channels and how do we continue to grow on all of those different channels? And so there's a couple of answers to those questions. And one is we simply dedicated, some time and some effort to social media. Social media takes time and effort. It's something that you have to be dedicated to and willing to make that commitment to reach people and share your messages. Why is that something that you need to do or want to do? Because let's face it, that's where our world is right now. People spend a great deal of time. You can do the research if you'd like, but they spend hours every day on their phone. What are they doing? They're scrolling through their social media accounts. So at the National Child Passenger Safety Board, what we've done is we've sort of created what we call a crowdsourcing model. And crowdsourcing is sort of when you obtain input or sort of enlist the help of others, right? So each member of our board, while they're serving on the board, is asked to submit ideas for our social media posts. And so what we've done is we've created a schedule that we follow, and it takes us through an entire year. Each member of the board submits a post that would include text and an image. And when it's that particular board's turn to contribute, board members' term to contribute, we ask them to contribute 5 to 7 posts, because we want to cover all the days in the week, and we want to cover multiple time zones, and we want to send our messages out on a variety of different platforms. So this is something that you might need to look at in your individual circumstances. Are you able to use a crowdsourcing model, or is this something that you are doing by yourself? And you need to kind of be honest in your answers, because what's your bandwidth? How much time do you have? And if you can recruit people to help, that's a great way of bringing in more voices and diverse content, but also making the load a little bit easier. So this slide here, are you flying solo? Or can you kind of build this team? Do you know some technicians in your community, some instructors, some other people that might be able to help? And again, establish a schedule. We adhere pretty closely to our schedule. I'm sometimes viewed as the bad guy on the board, but I send out reminders to kind of keep people on track. Hey, your turn's coming up. Reminder, please submit your posts. And then one thing that we've been able to do, and I would encourage you also to do this if you are able to. So people submit their posts, and then we use a vetting process where as many as 2 or 3 different people might look over the posts, including the images and the graphics. And we're paying attention to detail, right? We want to be viewed as sort of, the experts, if you will, in sharing child passenger safety messages and information. And so we do pay attention to things like grammar and spelling, and we also pay attention to what is exactly pictured in an image. One thing you can do when you're struggling with an image and you're a little unsure whether it's showing a proper harness, you can actually use tools to X out things on your image and maybe still use the image, but clearly denote that, hey, there might be something wrong with this, and maybe call that out in the social post. What's wrong here, and try to create some of that engagement that we're all looking for on social media. So I think we could move on to the next slide, please. So again, who is your audience? Are you trying to reach men? Are you trying to reach women? Are you trying to reach technicians and instructors, parents, caregivers? All of those type people. At the National Child Passenger Safety Board, we use a software tool. It's called Sprout Social. And we monitor our analytics monthly, and we take a pretty good look at the demographics to find out who we're reaching, on what times of the day we're reaching them, and how our audiences might differ from one channel to the next. And so I was just looking at some analytics this morning and discovered it was kind of interesting to me. You hear a lot of talk about how younger people are moving towards Instagram and TikTok and some of the newer social channels. And what we're finding on our Instagram channel, the board specific channel, our audience there is about 78% women, and they fall in an age range from about 25 to about 55. So we're finding our audience on Instagram is pretty similar, in fact, to what our audience is on Facebook. Now that might differ from what you find, but again, sort of underscores kind of the importance of taking a look at the analytics, letting the data guide your decision making as you kind of go down this journey and build out your social media accounts. So let's move on to the next slide, please. What social media sites do you use? And I would love it if people would input in the chat just to give us some idea of the different channels you're using. Are you using Facebook? Are you using Instagram? Are you using Twitter? We, as a board, have not branched out to TikTok or Reddit yet, and I'm seeing a few people are responding that they're on those channels. We might in fact do that. It becomes a question of bandwidth, really. Who has the time, to do all of these different channels? And then if we pick, to go on to TikTok, for example, do we maybe look at one of our existing channels and say, well, we're not quite getting our bang from our buck anymore there, and maybe decide, okay, let's back off there and expand on another channel. So I'm really happy to see a lot of the chats coming in. People are on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're on Facebook and Twitter. And again, you'll just want to make sure you know that you're reaching the people that you're hoping to reach with those channels. So take a little bit of time and use those analytics. We use Sprout Social. There are other places you can get analytics, including Hootsuite is a software some of you may be familiar with. And then of course, each of the different channels provides insights into your audience, your demographics, and your publishing behavior and all those types of things. Facebook and Twitter in particular are pretty good on those. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide, please.
Hey, Ron, before we go on,
Yes.
I can't see the chat bar, so I'm wondering if people, in addition to telling us which sites you use, can you tell us what your feed is called, like for CPS board, so that we can check out your Facebook and Instagram and Twitter profiles. We'd love to check you out.
Oh yeah, thanks for sharing that, Mandy. So yeah, put in your handles. We're at CPS board on Facebook, and if you put those in, if we're not already following you, we'll go back and try to follow you later. And so that kind of brings up something that I might be just jumping a little bit ahead on, but let me just say it now, and we can always touch on it again later. Follow reputable sources and sites and share content. That's another way of sort of amplifying messaging and increasing the content on your feed without putting in a lot of extra effort, right? So follow the board's channels, follow the National Safety Council, follow Safe Kids, follow NHTSA, and those people might follow you back, and then that's a great way to grow your audience and things like that. Okay, so what makes a great post? And I just want to pause and look at Frankie there for a minute, because this is fun, right? So you want to grab people's attention, right? And so if you're looking at this, Frankie says relax. I mean, immediately you've grabbed my attention with the use of image of a child in a car seat, and then the creative use of the Frankenstein character. You're safe and comfy, rear facing. A really simple message, but a couple things to note here. So what makes a great post? You want to bring it to life through image or images, right? You want to, when you can, make sure that you include a call to action. On this post, we didn't feel like it was necessary to have a call to action, but you might include something as simple as learn more and include a link to a source where somebody could learn more. You want to, when you can, talk with an active voice. And there's different voices that you can use on your social media channels. And Mandy and I had the privilege of working with our friend Trooper Tracy, who's from Central Illinois, at the recent Lifesavers Conference in Chicago. And Trooper Tracy shared some of the things that she's done to build out her social media accounts down in Central Illinois. And she interacts and engages with her audience in a very friendly, almost fun manner. And I just bring that up because there are different voices that you can use on social media, and some might be more appropriate than others, depending on if you're representing an organization, if you're representing an individual, different things to consider there. Trooper Tracy shared a wonderful story, and I'll just share it all with you. She was working one night early in the evening, and in her squad car, and actually followed the bus home from I think it was a basketball game. It might have been a volleyball game, and one of her children was in the vehicle with her, and she, asked him, "Hey, take a picture of this bus." So long story short, she gets back to the school. Turns out her daughter's on the bus coming home from the game that she was at. And the bus driver's name was Randy, and he was just freaking out. This trooper is following me all the way home. What's going on? Trooper Tracy turned this into sort of a viral social post that started with one post and turned into many others that followed, commenting Randy for his skill in driving the kids home and paying attention to driving safety, that all the kids were in their seats, that he slowed down and came to complete stops at every stop sign. And here he is freaking out, and now she's turned him into this hero in her community, and created a lot of people in the community commenting about that interaction. Some of the comments actually were a little negative. "Hey, what is Trooper Tracy doing following this bus driver home?" And I just bring that up as a reminder that we all have a role on social media, and let's try to be positive. And I think one of the things that we've kind of used is don't feed those trolls that choose to go down that negative path. Listen to what they say, see what they say, and then see if you can turn it around with a little bit more of a positive spin. And then just to kind of wrap that up, Mandy, what am I forgetting about that story? It was just such a great story that Trooper Tracy shared.
I think the main topic was that it allowed her to have some engagement with her followers, and they were able to turn it into a really positive situation, and it opened up some dialogue. It gave them a chance to chat.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And one of the kind of the tricks or the things that I learned, and I am by no means a social media expert, okay? I'm learning every day just like the rest of you, and I hope I can share some of the things that I've learned. But I was once told you have to put the social back into social. And really, what does that mean? Just engage and converse with your followers when it's appropriate, and and when you have the time, the bandwidth to do so. And the Trooper Tracy example is a great one. And then a couple of the other bullets here on our slide, we talk about using familiar language. You want to relate to people in a manner that they can relate back with, right? We have a lot of smart people on the call, but let's make sure that when we're communicating, we're using the kind of language that everyone will easily understand. When you can, use little bullets, use little subheads. We call them little chunks of text. Don't overwhelm people with so much text on a single post that you're going to just kind of convince them to continue scrolling and not stop and see what Frankie says, right? So I think those were the points, for that slide. Let's go ahead and move on. So again, where do you start? Start small. Start with one post. Start with one message. And here's an example. This kind of message I think is one that we all share from time to time on all of our channels. Right? The best car seat is the one that fits your child, fits your vehicle, and is used correctly every time. The trick is, let's not reinvent the wheel. That same message can be used in multiple ways on multiple channels. And to freshen it up, all you might need to do is sub out the image, you're able to create a fresh look. And so that would be one tip. I believe this one was a post that's shared on our social channels around the time of, I think it was in February around Valentine's Day. And so hence the hearts on the image here. Okay. So that's I think the points I wanted to make there. And then we're going to turn it over to Mandy and see if she had anything to add on this one.
So yeah, I wanted to chat about this for just a quick second. I know a majority of you on this call are instructors and technicians, and I feel like breaking it down is kind of the best way to get started. So how are we going to start? So when we do a car seat check or when we teach at a course, we have so much information we want to share, and we're so passionate and we're so excited about all the information that we have that it's easy to try to share a bunch of messages. And each one of us at the bottom of our check form, there's the additional messages we want to share. Or if we're up in front of a classroom, we want to, I talked to you about this, but I need to add a few more things. So the best part about that is that that's multiple ideas for social media, and you can choose just one of them. So we want to keep our messaging small, one post and one message. And the technician guide is a great place to start with that. This happens to come from module 7, page 4, and it was just easy to pull out, but it's one message and one post. So a lot of the things we're going to be sharing today are free to you. That's really important to us, that we are sharing things that you can use in your social media that's free to you. The CDC offers a bunch of information and tools to help you develop your messaging. They do have a clear communications index, and you can see that on this screen. And they just give you some basics. Did you identify your intended audience, conduct research? What are your behavioral objectives? Do you simply want them to buckle up? Do you want them to come in for a car seat check? What is your behavioral objective, or what is your key message? Did you determine how it's going to be formatted so it reaches your audience? Have you thought about that? And did you build in time and resources to pre-test the material? And how I interpret this is if I have a post due in an hour, am I just getting started on it now? Or did I take some time to create my first draft, and I'm going to run it by a coworker or a friend so they can take a look at it? Build a little bit of time to make sure that you can revise or clarify your message. The CDC also has a document, Everyday Words for Public Communication. Again, this is free to you at cdc.gov. And they provide a few examples of materials that they tested and what changes they made after they tested it with the widget. So you can download the widget and use it. But again, this is a free resource to you. So I think that this is the biggest question that we all have. Where do I get my ideas? I don't know about you, but that can feel pretty overwhelming. I don't even know where to start. Where do I start? So start with the tools that you have in your own hands. Your technician guide. You can just flip through the technician guide, and this image probably looks pretty familiar. You can find it on module 2, page 3, the Learn, Practice, Explain. You can open up the glossary of your technician guide. Pick out one of the terms, maybe it's an updated term in the new curriculum. Take a picture and make sure that people are aware of the new term, or explain what a term might mean. think about your own practice. What phone calls do you get? What emails do you get? What questions do caregivers ask you every time they come in? How tight should the harness be? How long should my child be rear facing? What are your frequently asked questions? What message are you really passionate about? What do you really want to make sure that caregivers know when they install their car seat? Hey, you need to check all the manuals before you consider borrowing lower anchors. You know, if that is one of your really important messages, or hey, our fitting station is open on the weekends, that's something you really want to make sure that people know. So what message is important to you? I'm going to talk to you a little bit later about repeats. So if harnessing is a question or a topic that's super important to you, you can remake that post a bunch of times. It's not a one and done situation. You can reuse the same messaging and give it a fresh look. Seasonal posts are really, really helpful. It helps us create something. Ron had provided a little example. It says Easter is near, and that's exciting. Make sure all your eggs are in one basket. Get a seat check. You know, so use your seasonal or time sensitive. Hey, we just posted one on the board website, I think, for you change your clocks, check your seat. You know, it's kind of like checking your fire, your smoke detectors. You want to make sure that you check them regularly. And a call to action. What are you wanting people to do? Again, do you want them to come for a car seat check? Do you want them to check their car seat? Do you want them to read their owner's manuals? What do you want them to do? But again, pick just one call to action for each post. And all of a sudden you have 100 posts, because you can just start listing out, what was I asked that one time? I want to talk about this. I want to show a picture of this. Or hey, I have a seat that came in that had this function. I want to share that. So a little bit more about where to get ideas. As a board, we have realized how challenging it is to create social media posts. And so we want to share what we've created with you. So you can go to our website, cpsboard.org/social. And our social media posts are there for you to use. They're free of charge. And there's an accordion file that you can open up, and you can choose which one you'd like to use, and you can share. We'd also welcome you to repost from our site and use those to share our messages on your site. They are free to use. TrafficSafetyMarketing.gov is another free resource. And I took a quick screenshot of some of the topics that they cover. It's not just car seats. This is another set of free resources that you can use for your marketing. A lot of these are customizable. There are videos, there are talking points. You can use them for your car seat event notifications. But this is one of my go-to sites, the TrafficSafetyMarketing.gov. They're easy to work with. If you have a question, you can email them. They're very responsive. But again, it's another free resource to you. And again, we're all about the reposting and sharing from reputable sources, which Ron spoke about just a few minutes ago. So, images. Isn't that one of the harder parts? Where do I find free images to use? As a side note, if you need some help with a media release or a photographer release, get in touch with us and we can share some of our resources that you can use as a sample to build your own with approval from your management. But I would say the easiest thing you can do is take your own picture. So we all have training seats, we have car seats that come in, we have friends, we have neighbors. This happens to be my little guy. I needed a misused picture and he was available and easy for me to use. Obviously, we try to mark all of our photos that are showing misuse with a big no or the red circle with the line through it. But take your own photos. An iPhone photo will produce, or other Samsung, whichever phone you use, they produce photos that are a good enough quality that you can use them for social media. Everybody is doing it. It's a great quality. Don't hesitate to use it. You don't have to have a professional photographer or a professional camera to take your own pictures. The NHTSA image gallery was recently updated. Those images are free to use as well. Again, traffic safety marketing. Ron spoke a lot about crowdsourcing. As you know, there is a hybrid version of the curriculum that's going to be released soon. In order to replicate some of the instructor demos, we crowdsourced with instructors and technicians nationwide to collect some videos. So we've reached out to those people that are doing it, and it's going to mean more to you if you can see your peers or other caregivers installing seats or their kiddos. Free images via a lot of different sites. You can purchase some stock images. A few are free, some come with a fee, so we didn't list out a whole bunch of those. I learned today about a site called Pixabay. These aren't car seat images, but they are other images that are free of charge. So there's a lot of resources. For example, I have a brother that had a baby recently, and he sent me a picture in his car seat, and it was ridiculously adorable, of course. And with his signed permission, we've used that photo. So a lot of people are willing to share. My coworker, Amy Brown, who's on this call, her daughter is just a little superstar, and she helped us make some videos for the upcoming hybrid curriculum. And she was really excited to be involved in the project. And, you know, there's a lot of our partners and our friends that are willing to help us get the images we need to build our social media. So Ron created this printing guide, and on our website it is only one page, but he's talking about all the different things you don't have to remember. Ron, do you have anything to add as this is rolling by?
Right. So we've created what would be your top 10 tips, and then a list of some free resources. And we'll copy that PDF URL and put it in the chat box. Maybe Jessica can do that. But the idea is you're going to have a one-page guide that you can take home with you today that will help you out and point you to some of the tools that we've been talking about here today. So I encourage you to download that and just keep it handy, and you know, you'll be able to follow along.
Thank you, Ron. So how do I do it? How do I do it? We are going to talk a little bit about Canva today. I'm only speaking about this particular platform because I have used it, and they have a free option. Again, this is something that doesn't cost you any money. There are lots and lots of options out there. This just happens to be one that many people seem to be familiar with. And again, there is a free option for us to use. So you can see along the top of this slide how within just a few, whoops, can't touch the mouse. Within just a few steps, I created a post. So I needed something, well, raise your hand if you have car seat questions. It's a simple statement, a simple picture, and with just a couple of graphics, I have a really, really simple post. This is something that you can do. If you'd like some help, of course, all the members of the board would be happy to help you walk through using Canva for the first time. They also have a bunch of tutorials online where you can follow them step by step and figure out how to do it. So in the next video, it's going to autoplay when I advance. I'm going to show you how I made a simple social media post on Canva. First thing I did is download the logo, and I'll show you why on the next slide. So that's an important first step. We always try to make sure that we include our logo and our website so that people know where to go if they have questions about the content. I had thought about this idea a little bit because I had to keep the video short for this presentation. So I kind of had an idea in mind. And you can see up on the upper left-hand corner, I could change the colors of this if I wanted to. I could change it to my branding colors. And going back, I probably would on my second revision. Change the background. Now I'm going to add a little bit of text. Be a superhero. Schedule a car seat check today and find a tech. So I think that one of the first questions we had in the Q&A section was about hashtags, and we're going to talk about that here in just a couple of minutes. Find a tech is one of my favorite ones to use because we want this to be available to any caregiver so they can find a technician in their area. So hey, it is pretty simple. It's going to start over, so we're going to move on to the next screen. But this is something that you can do. One of the key points that I wanted to show you is that when I uploaded the picture in the beginning, it pulled the image over and it pulled out the colors. So if I wanted to change the color of the sample text, it already pulls in my brand colors and I can make everything match really easily. Jim Savage, one of our current board members, noted that this is a great tool for those that are colorblind, and it helps you get some color matches that are pretty exact. So again, this is one of my favorite features because I'm not a graphics artist. Trying to match that color or determine exactly what shade of blue that is a little bit challenging for me. So going back to the idea that you only have to have one idea and you can present it multiple ways. I used the same idea, raise your hand, and then I just used a different image. These are all created off of Canva. They only took a couple of minutes to create, and they have a totally different look and feel. So with just a few more minutes, I feel like I could edit these posts and maybe have a dozen. So every single month I could ask, raise your hand. And that would be a great time to promote a monthly seat check or a weekly video car seat education class like Amy does here at our office. So it gives you a lot of options without having to come up with multiple ideas. You know, we keep getting the same questions. New caregivers have the same questions. How long should my kiddo be rear facing? You know, how tight should the harness be? So we're addressing the same question, but we're making it look a little bit different each time. But again, you'll notice that the branding and the logo, we try to keep that information on every time. So a few essential reminders. Use the tip sheets that are available at cpsboard.org. There's 10 top tech tips there. Teamwork. Now I think that we have all gone on the internet and we have seen a post and we're like, how did that go up? How did somebody not see that that harness wasn't tight enough, or that it was, instead of being at or below, it was at or above, or, you know, there's some errors. But when you get involved with creating a social media post, you're focused on so many things. You're focused on the font, and you're focused on the picture, and you're focused on the messaging. And sometimes you look at something so many times that you miss it. So teamwork involves someone else in each of your posts, a coworker, a parent. As a technician, you're so used to seeing it, you understand it. But when you present it to a parent, they're going to say, I don't know what that means. And it'll give you a little bit of insight to how to change it so it's helpful for caregivers. So always involve at least one other person with your social media posts. Make sure it's readable. You want to make sure that the reading level is okay. There's more information about that at cdc.gov. You also want to be careful with your fonts. So I really love fonts, and you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, I use kind of a script font for the title of our webinar, but you know, that's not the best for reading things like this bulleted list that we're looking at right now. So while those are fun in short segments, we want to make sure that our text is legible, and this sort of a font on the image on your left is a really good example of that. I also felt like this post was a really great example of high contrast. You want to make sure that your background and your words or your lettering are very different in color so that they're easy to read. And you want to get a stop scrolling graphic going, something that catches their eye. And it doesn't have to be something just wild. It just has to be something that's image stopping. Ron showed a series of 3 posts earlier, and the middle post had a blue background with a car seat in a shopping cart. And that has been one of our best images so far. People really got into that. It was show stopping, but it wasn't anything crazy, but it was important to us. So make sure you use a great graphic. One other tip, limit your text. There's a saying that says, if I'd had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. Take out what words you can. That way they get the message that you're trying to share. So Ron, I'm going to turn it over to you for some important reminders and about hashtags. I think you're a specialist in this area.
Okay. Thank you, Mandy. So branding, you know, be sure to include your brand on your posts that you create. It's just another way to let people know the good work that you're doing, right? And so it's important. And then when people are sharing it, others will see that. Couple things to know about tagging and hashtagging. So when you use hashtags, you see a lot of different varieties of hashtags out there. Some you might call cute or creative, and those are okay. But what are you trying to do with your hashtag is a question that you need to ask yourself. So if you're trying to get your post shared in sort of a larger conversation on social media, you might pick a hashtag such as car seat or safety, as opposed to hashtag Ron says this. Well, that might be fun, that might be cute, but it's not going to put you in that larger conversation of all the people talking about car seats and safety, right? So do a little homework, do a little research on what hashtags might be best. Car seat, safety, buckle up, things like that are all good ones. That doesn't mean that you can't have some fun and share the fun hashtags. You can do some of that also. And sometimes those will help your posts create engagement too, right? So there are reasons that people do those, but I just want to make it clear, if your objective is to be a part of that larger social conversation, make sure you're using the right hashtags to get in those conversations. Tagging, we tag the National Safety Council, we tag NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, we tag Safe Kids, and we tag the National Child Certification regularly. Reputable sources, and when you tag someone as opposed to a hashtag, when you use a tag, National Safety Council, now your post is going to drop right in their feed. And the reason you want to do those kinds of things, again, is to help amplify your message and help you grow, your following. So just understand a little bit about why hashtags and tags are important. And if you want to have some fun with those things, go ahead, but make sure you're you're achieving your objectives, are the kind of things to say there. And then I wanted to talk about where and when do I post. And I think that might be on the next slide. So this is really important, the when as much as anything else. And so I attended a social media class seminar not too long ago. And one of the things you learn is to follow the general practices that we all sort of adhere to in our own lives, right? So when we wake up in the morning, we probably look at our phone and our social media maybe before we go to work. We might take another look when we're grabbing a coffee at 10:15, right? We'll probably sneak a peek when we're at lunch, right? Maybe in the middle of the afternoon or late afternoon before we're getting ready to go home from work. And of course, that window from about 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. is a prime time to post on social media, because people are home now and they're looking, at their social channels, and most likely looking at those on their phones. So be aware of timing. On the board's channels, we dive into the analytics, and we've learned that people engage with our posts early in the morning. They also engage with them in the early evening hours. And so if you are following us, you'll notice that on Facebook, for example, we post twice a day, once in the morning and once in those early evening hours. We also use the tools on Instagram when we create a post and we want it to publish on Monday, April 4th. It'll tell me the suggested best time when my audience is going to be on Instagram. And so, we'll pick that time and publish our post at that time. So be sure that if you don't know about those tools, try to learn those and check into those on the different channels and take advantage of timing of posts. And then where do you post, again, goes back to where do you think your audience is. And you can draw some general assumptions before you create your account. Once you have an account, dig into the analytics and find out a little bit more. When are they on that channel? Is that the right age group? Is it men? Is it women? And make sure you make informed decisions. So those are some of the best practices that if you're not already aware of, make sure you kind of take a little time to learn those and use those to help guide you. And then maybe from there, we'll just go to the next slide. And how did my post do? And so this is a slide that shows you what the analytics look like if you use something like Sprout Social, which we do. And this is actually just a screenshot from our Facebook page demographics from February of this year. So you can see the biggest part of our audience on Facebook, and this again is specific to our board channel. It might be completely different from what you're seeing, okay? But the point is to know your demographics, right? So on Facebook, our biggest audience is in the 25 to 55-year-old age range. You can see those bars. We're reaching 85% women on Facebook and 13% men. And so again, that's kind of right in line with who we would like to reach. And then the different other analytics that you'll come across will show you when your peak times for engagement are and things like that. So if you're able to use a software such as Sprout Social, Hootsuite, encourage you to do that. If you're not, again, all the social channels have some of their own insights and make use of those. The Sprout Social we really love because it produces really great graphics, and I can send a pretty in-depth report to our executive committee every month and let them know how we're doing. So that's what I wanted to share there. And then that would bring us to this slide that I wanted to just kind of share with you. And we'll play the video. And as you watch, look at the time moving on the bottom. Okay, and so this is a gift that was shared with me by Jan Null, who's a adjunct professor at San Jose State University out in California, and he's one of the leading authorities on heat stroke and heat stroke prevention. And I wanted to show this example because we're coming up on the end of March. We were all kind of joking and commenting earlier about how cold it still is. And yes, it's cold here in southwest side of Chicago, but we're about to be moving into these warm weather months. And this is a great time for child passenger safety technicians, people like myself, instructors, and everyone out there to, when you're interacting with parents and caregivers, to share some reminders that might be just a little bit different than a normal car seat safety message, and raise awareness about the implications of heat stroke and hot cars. So just wanted to put that up there and show you. Again, it's a GIF. It plays in a few seconds. How many seconds do you want your videos? What's the best time for a length of the video on social media? Most people would tell you that 5 seconds is about the time that you'll have to grab somebody as they're scrolling through, right? But what we found is that it's worth experimenting. And that opening slide that was 26 seconds, don't be afraid to do that once in a while. Don't be afraid to share a video that is a minute once in a while or 2 minutes once in a while. See what your analytics tell you after you've done it. Maybe don't do it often because, again, we know people kind of sit and scroll and you've only got a few seconds to grab their attention. I'll leave it at that. About 5 seconds for a video, but don't be afraid to experiment.
Thank you, Ron. So I wanted to make sure we had just a couple of minutes to get to a few questions. And I wanted to go back to the hashtags for just a quick second. It was one of the first questions. I wanted to let you know that on Instagram, if I search for a tag, it will actually show me how many posts have that tag. And it's an easy way to determine if it's a common use tag. Like hashtag car seats has 80,000 posts related to it. So it's a good way to check to see if it's available to you. So let's take a look at the open questions. Krista Green asked, how best to advertise local events? Turnout hasn't been great despite efforts to spread the words via social media.
I could just maybe comment on that, Mandy, a
Yeah.
little bit. So sometimes we all have sort of posts that we need to put out there to promote upcoming events, webinars, car seat checks, etc. Those sometimes might not be your most popular posts and probably never will be, but you do it because you are going to pick up some people that will come to your event and who might share that with someone else, right? So don't get discouraged that that's not your most popular post, but think of different images and attention grabbers you can use when you're creating that post. So again, you want them to stop. They're scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. Oh, look at what Frankie says. Oh, there's a car seat check. Okay, you've grabbed me. Now they might look at your information. So I would suggest attention grabbers. Anything else that you might suggest, Mandy?
You know, I'm just wondering if time of day or the hashtags or maybe sharing with your local moms groups or something, maybe finding a different way to advertise. So figuring out what you have done and then assessing where there might be some opportunities. And, you know, we can talk about that after this meeting if you'd like to, you know, do you want to reach out to a Head Start or some local refugee groups, anything for a group that might be needing to get a car seat check, or a car seat would be a great group to reach out to get a little bit more attendance at local events. Heidi Dolan asked about a PDF copy of the presentation. This presentation is going to be posted at cpsboard.org probably within 48 hours. It's usually pretty quick. And then Jackson Y, I'm sorry, I don't know your whole name. You had a whole bunch of really great ideas and questions about the Clear Communication Index slide. If you want to stay on the call for just a quick minute, I can share that with you again. And then you asked about QR codes, and you know, I think we've really seen those coming back. Ron, do you have some info about QR codes?
So we're using QR codes on one of the road safety initiatives that I work on at the National Safety Council, and we put QR codes primarily on PDF documents. And so when people, you know, are led to a PDF document, they can scan the QR code using their phone, and now they'll have the document right on their phone, and it's easily shareable at that kind of situation. There are a number of places that you can go online and free tools to create QR codes. I use a free tool all the time and create QR codes, and we use them primarily on PDF documents.
So we're going to stay on the line for just a quick second, and Jessica Penn, we could help you talk about a social media name and what some questions you could ask yourself to determine one. I did want to make sure you knew about our upcoming webinars. We have 2 CEU webinars. one in April and one in May. I would encourage you to pre-register. These are filling up quickly, and you can earn CEUs for those. Today's session is a community education webinar, and you can use that for your recertification. We want to thank you. This will be posted to cpsboard.org. And again, if you have questions, you're welcome to reach out to Ron and I. We would be happy to answer you and guide you through any additional questions that you might have. We'll go ahead and wrap up the recording, but we'll stick around for a few minutes and chat about some of these additional questions. Thank you. Jessica, would you end the recording?